Welcome to this explainer. Right now, I want you to just picture the skyline of your city. Think about the bridges you drive over every day, the apartment you live in, the highways, basically the literal foundations of our daily lives. But what if I told you that hidden inside these walls is a paradoxical, invisible story unfolding over generations? It's a story almost nobody sees. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden nature of our built environment. We're going to explore how the concrete surrounding us is fundamentally tied to the Earth's carbon cycle in ways we're honestly only just beginning to grasp. It's an absolute game changer, and it's going to completely shift how you view the concrete jungle.
So let's kick things off with an undeniable reality: 8%. For decades, the thick gray smoke rolling out of cement kilns has carried a pretty simple accusation, right? Cement is a massive climate villain. It's responsible for nearly 8% of humanity's total global carbon dioxide emissions. Think about that. If cement were a country, it would literally be the third largest emitter on the entire planet. The emissions are immediate, they're measurable, and yeah, they are undeniable. Entire nations have built their modern prosperity on this exact chemical reaction. But as we're about to see, that 8%, it's really only the very first chapter of a much longer, far more complex story. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at two vastly different timelines. On one hand, you have the highly visible, violent emissions of production. We all see the smokestacks. We see the brutal heat of the kilns. But on the other hand, there's this invisible, decades-long carbon absorption happening right inside our aging city infrastructure. See, the very second fresh concrete is poured into a sidewalk, a high-rise, or a dam, a silent clock starts ticking. Rain, air, microscopic cracks, dust, and just plain old time begin a massive chemical reversal. The hardened cement actually starts breathing that carbon dioxide back in, locking it away into stable stone once again. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. We're talking decades, sometimes a full century. It's a silent chemical reversal happening right inside the walls around us. Now consider this massive paradigm shift. The same concrete blamed for warming the planet has been slowly pulling carbon back out of the atmosphere, grain by grain, year after year, like a debt being repaid long after the original damage was done. I mean, wow, that entirely reframes how we understand this material. For so long, we've only been counting the smoke coming from the kilns, completely ignoring the fact that the concrete itself is slowly paying back its climate debt. What used to look like this permanent atmospheric wound is actually a long-term exchange. It's a vast, distributed planetary system that stores, releases, and gradually reabsorbs carbon over the entire lifespan of civilization. Okay, let's break down exactly how this chemistry works, step by step. Step 1 is furnace heating, or calcination. Limestone is blasted with extreme temperatures, which unlocks and violently releases ancient carbon that's been trapped underground for literally millions of years. Then step 2, pouring the infrastructure. The concrete is cast and it sets. But step 3, this is the real revelation. It's the chemical reversal known as carbonation. As that concrete just sits there, interacting with the everyday air, it acts like a giant slow-motion sponge for CO2. The chemistry here is fascinating. Calcination unlocks the carbon violently, but the slow, steady ticking clock of carbonation pulls it right back into the stone. It's the Earth conducting a slow, atmospheric negotiation right beneath our tires. Now, let's be super clear here, because we want to stick to the hard science. The deeper realization isn't that cement is just suddenly completely innocent. Not at all. The kilns are still burning. We're still feeding fossil fuels into those furnaces to get that extreme heat. The crucial thing to remember is that carbonation only offsets the process emissions from calcination. It does absolutely nothing to erase the fossil fuels burned to actually power those massive kilns. So no, we definitely aren't giving the cement industry a free pass here. But it completely changes the narrative, because the material itself isn't just static anymore. It's a dynamic, active participant in our climate system. And this chemical reality, it completely reshapes the global map of responsibility. Think about it. The carbon released during production usually comes from kilns concentrated in developing economies, right? Places experiencing rapid industrial growth where the emissions are immediate. But then look at wealthy nations. They often show much lower immediate emissions because they've outsourced a lot of their domestic production. But here's the kicker. They retain the long-term carbon sink because they imported the concrete. The emissions went up in one part of the world, but the carbon sink stayed behind in the roads and buildings of Europe, North America, and Australia. Suddenly, climate accountability isn't just about where pollution is created, it's about where the infrastructure lives, ages, cracks, and breathes. So, when we map this out across modern history, you start to see this incredible delayed planetary force emerging. Back in the 2000s, we saw these massive construction booms, especially in places like China and India. I mean, literal forests of cranes were transforming skylines faster than at any point in human history. Now, here in the 2020s, the fresh emissions from all that production are deeply outpacing the slow, quiet chemistry of carbonation. But fast forward to the 2050s and beyond, those exact same buildings, those aging skylines, they're going to become massive, delayed environmental carbon sinks. All that historical construction activity is basically a delayed planetary force. We've unknowingly built a future carbon sink right into the physical bones of our civilization. The expanding megacities of yesterday are transforming into the atmospheric sponges of tomorrow.
Now, you might be wondering, does all concrete absorb carbon equally? Well, actually, no, and the physical drivers behind this are super interesting. Dense structural concrete, the incredibly strong stuff holding up massive skyscrapers, that absorbs carbon very, very slowly because air can barely penetrate its thick surface. But thinner, exposed mortar, it's surprisingly highly efficient at trapping carbon, even though there's less of it. And then we get to the most extreme factor, demolition rubble. When concrete is smashed apart, it maximizes chemical exposure to the air. So the actual physical shape and state of our built environment directly dictates the speed of this planetary breath. Which brings us to something that completely flips a massive assumption right on its head. Usually, when we see a building getting demolished, we frame it purely as an act of destruction, right? An environmental negative. But the reality is actually radically different. Demolition radically accelerates carbon absorption. When a building comes down, it isn't just the end of that structure, it kicks off a profound chemical transformation. We are taking this giant sealed block of stone, crushing it and cracking it wide open to the atmosphere. We're fundamentally changing how that material interacts with the world around it.
The sheer scale of this demolition paradox is honestly staggering. Think about an intact skyscraper. It has a relatively low exposed surface area, which means the pace of carbon absorption is just a slow, steady trickle. But the second it becomes crushed rubble, you are suddenly exposing billions of new microscopic and macroscopic surfaces to the open air. The absorption rate absolutely skyrockets. The debris of yesterday's cities actually accelerates carbon absorption way faster than intact buildings ever could. So a broken, demolished highway effectively becomes chemically alive again, breathing in CO2 at a vastly accelerated pace compared to when it was just a smooth, functioning road. All of this is leading us toward an unprecedented tipping point. As countries around the globe shift their policies, move toward lower cement production, and lock in stricter climate standards, a huge shift is approaching. The legacy sink, and by that I mean the carbon absorption from all past construction combined, might actually soon absorb more carbon than active cement industries are emitting. That is wild to think about. We are entering this strange, entirely new phase where the concrete already surrounding us, the literal ghosts of past industrial booms, is becoming a dominant climate force. It's actively going to start pulling more weight than the new emissions being generated. So this entirely reframes how we need to look at industrial leftovers. They aren't just trash anymore. They are the strategic climate assets of the future. Think about it. If we intentionally manage our waste concrete stockpiles, if we purposefully repurpose abandoned structures and engineer kiln dust landfills, the end of a building's life suddenly carries just as much strategic significance as its beginning. We can literally engineer our demolition and our waste to maximize surface area and carbon absorption. We have the potential to turn the graveyard of old infrastructure into an active breathing lung for the planet. At the end of the day, the carbon flow map of cement is ultimately a map of human civilization confronting its own reflection. Every single city we've ever built to protect ourselves from nature has inevitably become a working part of Earth's carbon cycle. The smokestack and the crumbling wall are deeply connected across generations. One releases and the other slowly, patiently takes it back. And so as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought about our built environment. As we build the cities of tomorrow, are we just emitting carbon, or are we engineering the climate sinks of the future? Keep questioning the world around you, and thanks for joining me.